Good morning and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna whitewash some pine. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So what I'll be using for materials is Bullseye 123 primer. It has a good stain blocking technology in it. I'm gonna water it down a little bit, thin it out so it spreads a little easier and doesn't completely coat it because we do want some of that wood grain to show through. And once after that's dry, for my top clear coat as a protective film, I'll be using Varathane. This is a bit more top of the line Varathane NanoDefense. It's actually meant for floors, but I want to make sure it's weather resistant because this is going in at a cottage, so we'll see a lot of fluctuations in temperature and a lot of abuse throughout the year. So spent the extra 15 bucks, got the higher quality stuff, and it will be a clear satin finish. And I'll use a brush to apply both the whitewash and the Varathane. Alright, I'll get set up here, give you a bit of a better look at what's going on. So I have already watered this down. There's probably a 1/4 cup per can. I'll give it a shake to make sure it's mixed well. I was using it yesterday already. Pop the lid off. You can see it is quite liquidy. It doesn't take much to thin it down. And I do already have a brush started for when I was using it yesterday. We'll be doing the jambs, casing, and the baseboard all with this clear pine. Depending on what kind of trim you're doing, you may have to watch this corner. It tends to bead up on any sharp corner, so I did round this off because this is the jamb. So our piece of trim is going to be running on this side, and 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch will be revealed past that little round over I made. And just like that, so you can see the difference already between the two. It doesn't take much to do it. If you find that it's going on too thick, you can just add some water, thin it down a bit so it stretches a bit more and it is applied a little more thin. Okay, that piece is done, so we'll set it aside, wait for that whitewash to dry, and then we'll apply the Varathane. I went ahead and got some casing that I'd done the day before to make sure it is fully dry before I apply the Varathane. So this is it here. You can tell I have 2 pieces of whitewashed, and then this is just the back side of one so you can see the comparison again. I'll open up the Varathane, give it a stir, and apply it to the first piece, and you can see a progression, the difference between each step. Here are my pieces here. Here's the Varathane I will be using, is the NanoDefense Clear. It's a satin finish opposed to a gloss or semi-gloss, which is what a lot of Varathanes in the past were coated with, but now we have a satin and a matte finish option. So I'll be using that, which is meant for a floor, so it does have a high scratch resistancy, which is great. I'll try and get at least 2 coats on everything, and then maybe a 3rd or 4th coat on the windowsills where there will be a lot more wear and tear. So you do want to make sure you stir it and don't shake it, otherwise you'll create air bubbles. And it is a milky white color, but it will dry clear. Okay, the Varathane is all mixed up now. There is one more step I do have to do before I apply it, and that is sand the primed or the whitewashed trim. I do that because if you apply almost anything, whether it's stain, wood, Varathane, it will cause the wood fibers in the material to rise up, and once that liquid dries, whatever it is, it will leave a hardened bristle behind. So I want to knock that down with a piece of sandpaper. This is just 150 grit. It's pretty simple, straightforward. Pretty much just that. So I'll go ahead and knock down those hardened bristles, and then I can apply the Varathane. Okay, the sanding's done. I'm going to put on some gloves and apply the Varathane. I'll wear a respirator too for when I actually do all my pieces, but just for this piece, I'll leave it off so I can tell you what I'm doing. And back down. So I do want to make sure I do stir this as I go, because it does have a tendency to settle and skin over. And it is super thin, so it does spread pretty easily and go pretty far. Nice light pulls. Because it is so thin, it does almost settle as you apply it, so just avoid going over it too many times. So I start over here and then I end where it's already been done, where it's wet still, otherwise you'll leave a brush mark. So start on the bare wood and pull into where it's wet and lift. Okay, just like that, the first coat is done, so Okay, just like that, the first coat is done, so we'll wait, it says 2 hours before a recoat, and we'll get a second coat on, and then I'll show you the comparison between the three. It's kind of hard to tell now because the one I just did is still wet, so it looks glossy, but we'll wait for it to dry, and I'll show you. Okay, it's been about 3 hours, so that first coat of Varathane has dried, and I can go ahead and apply my second coat. Again, I have the 3 samples here. This is unfinished. This is 1 coat of whitewash, and this is 1 coat of whitewash and 1 coat of Varathane. So just like we did for when the whitewash coat was dry, we sanded it lightly to knock off any bristles, any fibers that stuck out. So I'm gonna do the same with that first coat of Varathane actually. It won't be as bad as the whitewash, but it's a good habit to get it done so you get that nice smooth finish. And that's all it takes. Again, just a real quick pass with the sandpaper. And because this is the casing, both edges will be exposed. Make sure my Varathane is stirred. And it's the same application as the first coat. I actually prefer to start with my edges. That way if it beads up on the corner, it goes onto the flat and I can just wipe it off on the flat like that. I do have gloves somewhere. And it will take a lot less Varathane than the first coat just because there's less of it to absorb in, whereas the whitewash will suck a lot of that Varathane into it. Okay, that does it for the second coat of Varathane on this one piece. So again, we have the bare wood, we have 1 coat of whitewash, and we have 1 coat of whitewash, 2 coats of Varathane on this last piece here. That's kind of the basics of whitewashing and protecting it. You could go ahead and apply another coat of Varathane on this, or even a 4th coat if you want, depending on the application. I'm actually gonna install it all with 2 coats and then do a 3rd coat after it's all installed. That will do it for this video. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next one. This is the casing that we're using for the doors and windows, and the baseboard will have the same profile. It's just the chamfer on the one edge. It's not much, and it'll just go into the door like this, just to give you a bit of an idea what we're going for. But there'll be another video about the installation of that. Alright, thanks for watching.